Thank you. I'm not used to using one of these, but they're trying to tape this, so I will. Thanks for coming. I didn't know I was on Facebook, so that was news. These fine folks, friends of mine from Dillsburg, and they came over. I didn't see too many eggs with them, so hopefully they'll keep it clean. It's tomatoes. Okay. I got a good story about tomatoes, but we'll go on. Where's, how do I index it? Oh, okay. New technology. Uh, like we said, I'm with the Northern Central Railroad. There's a couple of our engines. We now have a third one. We started with the steam engine on the left and added 6076, which I'll talk about later. And okay, whoops, I went too far. Hang on with me. We'll make it work. There we go. That's. Oh, we're back to the engines. Somebody tell me what the attractions are in Adams County. There's two attractions. Gettysburg, yeah. What's the other one over there? Apples. Okay, let's go over to Lancaster County. What's over there? Strasburg Railroad, yes, but there's other things. Amish. These two gentlemen were standing on the front, in front of the Yorktown Hotel after a business meeting that they just attended in there on a summer afternoon in around 2005. And the gentleman on the left is Reed Anderson, his wife Connie. You'll see her on our train on a regular basis. And then you've got Bill Simpson and his wife Judy Simpson that you'll see around the train quite often. Those two people, Reed was an attorney in York, and Bill was CEO of Fallscraft. Who remembers Fallscraft? Great business that's now in China. So I'm sorry to say. But they were standing out there and they were watching all the traffic going up and down Market Street and said, okay, what do we have in York County to get some of these tourists to stop? And he said, we've got second oldest railroad here in this area, just behind the B&O. So that's where the Northern Central came in. And their focus was on the history. So they created a nonprofit corporation with this as their mission statement, Northern Central Railroad. Okay.
Try that.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Will enhance the economic engine of York County by delivering historical, educational, and entertaining experiences on an excursion railroad. That's the mission statement, to try to get some of those people to stop and enjoy it. We're going to see some of those facts and figures here in a few minutes. See if I can go to the next one. We're part of Explore York, the York County Economic Alliance, and when I was young, we called it the Chamber of Commerce. Okay. We're also part of the York County Community Foundation, the York County Park System, because they're our landlord. Our tracks are on land that's owned by York County Parks. And the Rail Trail Business Association, Cultural Alliance, which supports community activities and cultural activities in York County. We are a partner with York Revolution. They're here to get tourists, and we advertise with them. That gentleman that just snuck in is going to be up there at the York Revolution tomorrow, handing out brochures as people come through the gate. And and the rail bike trails. Anybody ridden a rail bike? How'd you like it? It was fun. All right. If you haven't done rail bikes and you're looking for a new, and I know the Rec Council is wanting people to get out and exercise, it's new and different exercise. If you've ever ridden the bikes on the boardwalk down at Ocean City, this is very similar, but you're on a nice rail. Not as many bumps as down in Ocean City, I don't think. I haven't personally done it, but I'm going to get out there and do it. And then STEM. We run STEM camps, science, technologies, engineering, and math in the summer times. And I think Rita, that's sitting back here, you've helped with STEM camps, haven't you? Her grandson goes, and did he give it a 1 through 5 rating?
Well, he's gone for 3 years, and he's looking. The only thing he said is this year he moves up to the older group, and he's afraid all of his friends are going to be left behind.
Oh.
But he enjoys it. So.
Friends are the big thing, but we have a good program. We have a great couple that leads it, and kids learn a lot, and they have fun. They don't realize they're learning sometimes. So I worked with it the first year that we had it, but I'm too old now. So what are some of the attractions and destinations? Well, where do we go from? We originate in New Freedom, Pennsylvania. We start most of our rides 1.5 miles north of the Mason-Dixon line. I always have people say, well, are we going to go south? Well, and I say, tracks are going to run out in 1.5 miles. If you want to go that way, we can do it. But no, we basically start in New Freedom. We go up to Glen Rock Railroad, first of all, then Glen Rock, then go up to Hanover Junction. Anybody been to Hanover Junction? Okay, very interesting museum there. I like it. Seven Valleys, then the Howard Tunnel, second oldest operating tunnel, railroad tunnel, then up to Brillhart Station, and we can go to Hyde. From Brillhart Station to Hyde, there's not a lot of scenery, so we generally stop at Brillhart Station and come back. And we'll talk some more about those rides. So Glen Rock Express is a nominal 1 hour trip. I want to tell people it's about 1 hour and 15 minutes because we usually do a runaround on it. That's where we move the engine from the north end of the train to the south end of the train to bring it back. So the Glen Rock Express, a 1 hour trip, great trip. I propose it to people with younger kids that don't have a lot of patience. Go up to Hanover Junction. You have a 20-minute layover at Hanover Junction. You get to go out. You get to go through the museum. We have museum docents that open up the museum there. The museum is owned by York County Parks, but they give us access to it. And it's an interesting museum. For those of you that are not familiar with it, that's where Abraham Lincoln changed trains to go get on the Hanover-Gettysburg Railroad to go on to Gettysburg to make his famous Gettysburg Address. And then he came back through there. So there is some interesting history. You see the people standing on top of the passenger car on the side spur. That's on the Hanover-Gettysburg Railroad. Those are Pinkerton detectives. That's who was supposed to be guarding Lincoln. That's the reason they're on top of the rail cars. And this is a Northern Central train on this side. So that was the eastern terminus of the Hanover-Gettysburg. And then it went through Hanover and over into Gettysburg at what's now referred to as the Lincoln Railroad Station in Gettysburg. It is not the station that the new Gettysburg Excursion Railroad is using. They're using one that's 2 blocks away that was from the 1950s, 60s era. Then, whoops, I keep hitting that button. Don't want that one. The Howard Tunnel Special. And that's about a 3-hour trip, and it will take you from New Freedom through the Howard Tunnel. You see the Howard Tunnel. That was an important piece of ground during the Civil War. There was Pennsylvania militia on top of the Howard Tunnel guarding it because they didn't want the Confederates to get in there and blow it up, because the Northern Central Railroad was important during the Civil War. Northern Central Railroad came into being back in the 1828, came into, crossed the road into Pennsylvania around 1838. Mike could do this better because he's done the narrations more than I have recently, and that's when it went from downtown Baltimore up to north of Harrisburg, and went through the Howard Tunnel. At the then the Northern Central Railroad quit operating in 1972. Anybody tell me what happened in 1972 in this neighborhood? Huh? Hurricane Agnes came through, backed up all the subsidiaries to the Chesapeake, took out all the trestles and bridges south of the Mason-Dixon line, and that at that time the Northern Central was owned by the Penn Central, and they said, we're not going to focus on getting that line back in service because rail business had gone down. And in the early 19th century, you had trackage put in between Philadelphia and York and Philadelphia and Harrisburg. They said, we're going to service those communities via Philadelphia, and we're going to get working to get our money-making lines, which was Baltimore to DC, Baltimore to Philadelphia, back in service. So they abandoned the lines and ceded the land back. Since they'd taken the land by eminent domain, they had to give it back to the states. The states gave it to the counties, and the counties then made linear parks out of them, which we now call rail trails. So that's how the NCR Rail Trail became. And it had, at that time, 2 tracks, and they took up 1 track for here in Pennsylvania to put in the rail trail and left 1 track because they wanted to foster rail service to the southern part of York County for freight, is what they were looking for, and for tourist railroads. Well, the freight's never developed. I don't know of anything that's been moved freight-wise on it. So we'll go on. These are some photos. This is our engine, number 17, right here. It is a replica steam engine. It's a 440 engine. You can't see it real well on that picture, but that means it has 4 wheels in the front that are going to guide it down the track. It's going to have 4 power wheels that are making it go, and it has 0 trailing wheels. Some trains that you see going through the mountains and everything will have a set of wheels on the back to keep it on the track, because we're not doing horseshoe curves, that sort of thing. We don't need that. It was built off of the blueprints that engines in this area were operating with in the 1860s. It was custom built for us by Clokey Locomotive out in Elgin, Illinois, and he will be glad to build you one. He needs $1 million down, and it was $2.5 million to get it delivered. So we have reenactors quite frequently. We're going to have a bunch of reenactors here when we do the 250th anniversary, which I'll talk about in a minute. But Abraham Lincoln comes and visits us every November of when he would made his trip to Gettysburg, and has his Union Army Guards with him many times, and he does a great job. You have never experienced, in my mind, the Gettysburg Address until he stands on the steps of Hanover Junction train station and tells you, I'm going over to give this little talk over at this dedication, and I'd like to try it out on you folks, is how he does it. And the emphasis he puts on it is much different than I used to teach Boy Scouts, and we always used that when they were doing their citizenship in the nation. They had to do a 5-minute speech, and most of them pick the Gettysburg Address because it's nice and short, and they had to memorize it. But it's a lot different when he does it, and you can feel the sorrow and pain that he was feeling because the war wasn't over. Oops. I think I recognize that guy in the middle back there. He looks like that guy in the red hat back there. So we have a lot of activities. I'll be honest with you. We got 17 miles of track. I can take you up that north on that track and bring you back south, but I got 17 miles of track. I have to do something to entertain you so that you'll come back. Otherwise, you'll come once and say, I've seen the scenery, that's it. Lincoln, Santa Claus, and we'll see some other folks that are here to entertain you. We're an entertainment company. We have elves. These are elves on the engine. Now, you guys have all seen elves. Santa has elves. And he's been known to have some bad elves. And they do a great job. These are semi-professional actors from Wilmington, Delaware, that under contract to us, that we work with them, and they put together programs to entertain. How about a princess? There's one of the ice princesses. I can't call them Frozen Princess because Disney would charge me a royalty fee if we use those terms. But they, again, from the same organization, they do a great job. They have fabulous costumes, and they sing, and they're good. And they've done from Wicked, they've done, what was this last one? G something. But kids' musical programs, and kids love them. That's a beer glass that's left sitting on the armrest of one of our seats. We do ales on rails. I was talking over here about all the craft breweries we have in Pennsylvania. And so we have a company that comes in and does beer tastings. They get into real depth. They'll tell you the history of the beers, what things to look for in it, and you get to try different ones, and then the ones you like, you get a full-size glass. You get 5-ounce taster glasses. Get so many going north, so many coming south, and so that's how that ended up there. We just did this one, 2 weeks ago, wasn't it? Tales on the Rails. You can bring your pet. When they first brought this up a few years ago, and I had to go tell the volunteers that we're going to have dogs on there, nobody wanted to be a car host, I don't think. But we have not had problems. They're very well behaved, and they do a good job. And so we do Tales on Rails about twice a year. We'll do it again in August, I think. That's when it's going to be Tales in the Park, and we'll pick them up in the park. This is the museum that's in New Freedom. It is, again, owned by York County Parks because we rent the other half of that historical train station now, and that's where we depart from. They allow us to open the museum and let you tour through it. And again, it's staffed by a volunteer. And so that's where, well, no, those lanterns didn't come from the museum. NCR owns those, but we have somebody in there so that memorabilia doesn't walk off. So it's there so everybody can enjoy it. But it's a very interesting, it tells the history of the Northern Central Railroad from beginning back in 1838 to the end. And then this is in our 1950s lounge car. And people are, again, enjoying some beverages, adult beverages, because we do have a liquor license. We are allowed to serve on the train. It's like an airplane liquor license. You know, an airplane liquor license, you can only have alcoholic beverages in flight or as you're preparing for flight. We can't allow any alcoholic beverages to go off the train. They have to be consumed while they're on the train. So, what do we have? We have more than a steam engine. That is looking inside the cab. That's the kids from Steam Camp touring the cab of our steam engine and seeing how it works. They've been, that's part of their steam camp. We do, in the spring, a lot of field trips. It's a charter school, but I can't think the name of which one. The Blue School, yeah. Could be. Part of Blue, it's part of the Blues Clue group, right? No, they're great, but we do a number of charter trips, and we do them from young kids to I get a lot of buses from senior centers that come down, ride the train, and I'm talking senior centers in Ohio, in Indiana, that come out and are doing the historic loop. You know, they're doing Gettysburg. Then they stop and do us, and then they go over and see the Amish. You know, they're on Bailey buses and come in, and we love them. And they're all, both the young and the older, are fun. This is an event in our engine house. I was looking at this, and I couldn't place exactly which event, but I think it may be in the christening of the new Freedom car, because it's in the daylight. It's not a volunteer appreciation event, because those are generally at night. There's bright sunshine coming in. But you recognize anybody there? Rita's really looking at it. What have we accomplished? Well, we're the York County's biggest tourist attraction. We used to be second, but Harley Davidson doesn't do tours. So that's how we've got. Why is that important? Well, I've jumped ahead. Annual events. We do Cowboy Weekend. Put it on your calendar. It is the second weekend in October every year. Last year we had 63 cowboys and cowgirls that came up for that weekend. They set up a tent city of what it would look like when the cowboys went into a new area. And they have demonstrations in there of all the different cowboy skills, including gambling. So, and they love to teach the kids about the gambling, because they show them, they pay them off in candy, and then they let them rebet and show them how fast you can lose it. But they do horseshoeing, they show blacksmithing. We have musical groups there that are doing 1800s music and a lot of stuff. And, you know, there's always a bad apple in every group. The Cowboys are no different. They follow us, chase us on horses, and rob that train every single trip. But they do a great performance, because the cowgirls, I'll give away their secret. The cowgirls are there in their long Western dresses, but they tend to have guns hidden in the folds of their dresses and their petticoats. So when the cowboys get on, they somehow get on with guns and rob us. And we have a strong box in the back. We have a mail bag. They take it all. But in the woods out by Alecraft, everybody knows where Alecraft is, in that set of woods, there's usually some U.S. Marshals that then apprehend them. So you get to see a real good gunfight from the train. You don't have to leave your seats, or you may have to stand up to look over the heads. But it's a big event. I think this is our 9th year coming up this October. So we have fun with cowboys. We do Smoke on the Rails. Who's familiar with Smoke on the Rails? It's a barbecue contest held there on Marge Goodfellow Park by, is it the Rec Council that sponsors it, or New Freedom Borough and Rec? See, we're fitting right in. And we take the train right up to Marge Goodfellow Park and load there. And we do that on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and generally one run on Sunday. The one on Thursday is predominantly for the participants. And last year, if I'm not mistaken, they had 81 or 82 barbecue teams from all over the U.S. And if you place first, second, and third in this, then you get to go on to regionals and then nationals. So it's a big event, been going on for 3 or 4 years. We stole that event from Spring Grove. For years it was done over there, but we have a train. And New Freedom stole the city managers, or the borough manager, so he brought Smoke on the Rails with him. Oops, I pushed that wrong button again. If you look up closely at the front of that engine over here, the one in the back is our number 17. That's the back of the tender, and that's number 85. It's another steam engine that we bring in here. I think it'll be here late summer. I'm not sure. I'd have to go look at the schedule. But we can do things like reenactment of Pounding of the Golden Spike, or the chase trains where the Confederates stole, or the Union stole an engine down from the Confederates. And and I think 85, yeah, it may be here at the 250th celebration. I'm not sure. But they bring it in, so this is part our crews, part crews that come with 85, comparing notes, and they'll go out and have a race. This is the 250th anniversary of American. Anybody know that? Well, Northern Central Railroad is the lead player in York County for the events. We formed a group and went out and got some marketing money from the state that and have all sorts of reenactors. We have Civil War reenactors that are going to set up a camp. We have World War I reenactors that are going to set up exhibits, etc. We have World War II. And then we have just individual reenactors that will be in the area. We will be using Freedom Green Park that's on Main Street in New Freedom, and we will be using the entire block that the historical station's in. So there will be plenty to see and do, and most of it will be free, but we will be running trains throughout the day with our 3 engines. So we will have multiple engines taking turns and going up and down the track. That is on Saturday the 27th of June, Sunday the 28th, 10 to 4. We're not trying to do it over 4th of July weekend. There's too many other distractions. We're doing it the weekend before. So I encourage you to come. Living historians, Mr. Goodrich, that lived in York, will be there. Abraham Lincoln will be there. General Lee, I believe, will be there, and several other, and they will be riding on the trains and entertaining you with some of their personal stories. What have we done? What's our accomplishments? Well, we've done over $1 million worth of restoration on our 17 miles of track. It's probably closer to $2 million now. We did $990,000 to get the track back in operating shape when we first started going from New Freedom up to Hanover Junction. And we've put in a lot more than that since then. We have Bike-A-Board. How many people like to bike? This guy likes to bike. Now, do you ride uphill or do you ride downhill?
I make the round trip.
You make a round trip.
I start at the bottom because I want to be going downhill when I'm reaching.
Okay. You ride uphill first. Okay. Let me make it easier on you. We will transport you in our Bike-A-Board program. And my advice, at least at my age, I'm going to ride downhill. And then I'm going to go down to Brillhart Station, and I'm going to put my bike on that gondola car. Bikes ride free. You buy a one-way ticket for you to sit in a nice, comfortable seat. We strap your bikes in there, and we'll take you back up the hill. And that is a very popular program. We did the first one Saturday, wasn't it? How many bikes do you have on board?
31 altogether. We had 3 drop off at Hanover Junction and then another 28 at Brillhart.
You picked.
Last year we had 63 was the top number.
Yeah, 63. I worked that one. So but bike aboard, the gondola car came off of a railroad in Delaware. Yeah, it was Delaware, wasn't it? Because it's repainted. We've restored it. It was a wood and metal scrap when we got it. We were given it by the Pennsylvania Railroad Museum. They had several gondolas. They said, we're going to restore one and put it on display, and we have a couple others, and we will give them to you. So we went over there and picked it up and didn't realize at the time we picked it up how much steel damage there was. We knew the wood was all going to have to be replaced, but it's got a lot of patches on it. It's sort of like me. But that's a popular program. That's the back end of a caboose that we restored. You can rent the caboose for a private party, or we do, for some runs, we use the caboose. It's a early 50s, I can't give you the exact date, model that still had all the accoutrements of an operating caboose, still had bunks in it, still had the dining table. The stove had been taken out of it, but that was your office and living quarters. How did I get interested in the railroads? I was about that big when my grandfather was a conductor on Fort Worth and Denver railroads, and he retired, but he had passes to go back to Texas. He retired, moved out of Texas, and went up to the Ozarks and thought he'd gonna be a farmer. Found out there's no level land in the Ozarks, just like there isn't much around here, and ended up moving into town. But they'd take their grandson with them, and we'd go back to Texas and visit family on the train. So that's how I got interested in trains. But then I didn't get to play with trains until I retired many years later. This is our gift shop. It is historical and is part of the New Freedom Historical Train Station that has been there since late 1800s, and it is a historical place, registered, and has the big plaque that it's a registered historical facility. It was rebuilt in the early 2000s, where they took it down board by board, numbered every board, replaced the bad ones, and then put it all back together. And so it's really unique. And we've been fortunate enough to be able to rent the part that was the ticket counter there in the back. You see people getting tickets, and where we have a gift shop, that would have been the passenger waiting area. The other half of the building was the freight, and that's where the museum is. But stop and think about it. You had the train here before you had a post office. So if you wanted to ship or receive something, you had to take it down to the train. And then you had to package it. It got weighed and put on a train car and got there in a reasonable amount of time. This is our former president, who just recently passed away, christening the New Freedom car. All of our cars are replica cars. Why? You look at them, everything on the top is wooden. Those cars from the 1800s aren't around unless they happen to get caught up and get in a museum. They basically disintegrated. We've again tried to use and keep the styles. This is the New Freedom. It would have been your second highest class of cars back in the 1800s. The Abraham Lincoln is our Class A car. Has nicer seats, wooden armrest, etc. But the New Freedom is a very comfortable car. It does have padded seats, and they do flip, so you don't have to go backwards. We have wonderful car hosts that'll flip them for you. Our accomplishments, well, we're on track. This is our 13th season. We did our first run in June of 2013. I had the privilege of being a flagger on that run, which didn't go very well, but we've improved and we're very reliable now. You can see we do serve beer and other beverages. We do have licensed bartenders. That's an interior shot of our lounge car. And we have a lounge car and we have a chair car. We call them the Trail Sisters. One's the Pacific Trail and one's the Overland Trail. And one of them's a 1949 model and one's a 1950. So, you know, we're getting up, we're getting newer. We call those our new cars. We've increased over the last several years our ridership by 25%. We've increased our dollar sales in our gift shop by 57% in the last 3 years. And we've had a 52% reduction in our debt. As I mentioned, we started out spending $2.5 million on an engine. We leased our first cars. We didn't own them. We brought them up from Florida from a railroad that had quit operating and leased them. Now all of our equipment is owned by us. But we made a $2.5 million investment in a steam engine and $1 million investment in our trackage to get from New Freedom up to Hanover Junction. And then we spent a lot of money putting in an engine house where we could work on and store that equipment. So we ran up a big debt and are working constantly to pay that off. Our impact. What's our impact on the county? We're running over, for the last several years, we have run over 20,000 passengers a year. No, I'm not as big as Strasburg. Strasburg's been there 100 years. Give me a few more years and I'll try to catch up. But the most important thing about that ridership is what it brings to York County. 62% of our passengers that ride our train come from outside of York County. That's based on the information they give us when they make a reservation as where their home is. We go by zip codes. We are a trail-friendly business. We encourage people doing things like rail bikes. Rail bikes, basically, we don't own them, but they work with us because we have the rights to the rails, and so we don't want to run over them, so they have to schedule around us. We have priority. But we try to be a trail-friendly business. We've partnered with 74 different companies and businesses in York County. Everything from A.O. Craft, they are, this year, have the contract providing all of our box lunches on our longer trips. And we do brunches with them. We do high tea, and I've never been to one of those, but they tell me it's nice, over at Glen Rock Mill Inn. And you name it, we've done it with everybody. We used to have pit beef sandwiches on the train that was prepared by the Glen Rock Fire Company. They would have or be selling sandwiches. We would take orders when you signed in, and we'd stop at Glen Rock. They'd run over sandwiches, and we'd pass them out. So all sorts of relationships. Creating a community. We have 27 employees. Mike, did you know we have 27 employees? No, I don't think so. That's a very misleading. Yes, we have 5 full-time employees. We have our engineers, our conductors, our firemen have to pass the FRA test. So they are passing this, following the same requirements as the Amtrak folks. And they are paid by the hour for the hours they work. So they're scheduled and they get paid. So that's how come they classify them as an employee. Our other employees are our gift shop clerks, and they again are paid by the hour. But I only have 5 full-time employees there. But what makes the thing run, and I've got 3 of them sitting here in the back row, is volunteers. Last year we had 98 volunteers that logged 5,120. The guy back here in the red hat counted all those hours. But I know there's probably 50% more of people that didn't log in because it's an old paper system. What time did you get here? What time did you go home? And because they don't get paid, they sometimes forget. I think if we paid them, but we don't. So we are a volunteer organization, and it's very important. Okay. I don't know why it's going backwards, but we'll skip through it real quick. Pennsylvania, the Great American Getaway, that is Pennsylvania state tourism. We now work not only with county tourism, but we work with a state tourism because we are drawing visitors in here. There's a bunch of people like me that are rail nuts that will travel a long distance just to come see and ride, especially a steam train. And our other trains are, our newest engine is in the 1950s. So I can call it an antique. I think anything over 50 or 60 years we can call antiques. And we received a marketing grant as part of the PA 250 Cross America program, which is designed to get people active in doing things. And that's where our sesquicentennial program kicked off, but we're partnering with a bunch of other organizations, as I mentioned earlier, to make that happen. How can you get involved? Well, about 65% of our revenue comes from ticket sales. A railroad is an expensive thing to operate, so you can make a donation to it. We're always searching for donations and grants. You're going to have a good opportunity next week to make a donation. Give Local York. We are listed in Give Local York, so when you want to make your donation, you can specify Northern Central Railroad. If you make a gift, you will receive a pass for a ride at certain levels. And I can't give you those levels because the board was still discussing them last Thursday. But I know it's been finalized, but I haven't been in the station to pick that up. So that's April 30th, starting at 7 o'clock. It goes 24 hours till May 1st, 7 o'clock. Last year, we received close to $15,000 in donations from that program. So thank you all for doing that. Membership. My advice to people, and these guys that back may disagree with, if you want to ride our train more than twice in a calendar year, buy a membership. With a membership, you can ride every weekend from January through September. You cannot ride on a membership during our holiday trains. I'm sorry, they're sellouts. But I know one gentleman that I had the pleasure of working with last week. Mike had pleasure 2 weeks ago, I guess it was. Time flies. Down at the train show, Mike Crockett, and he's on at least every Saturday or every Sunday. It's a rare exception when I don't see Mike on there. And so he has a member. And we have different levels of membership, individuals, families, different benefits with each level. Please grab a brochure I've got back there and look into membership. Own a piece of the railroad. No, you can't have those lanterns. They're not for sale. But you can buy a railroad tie, or you can buy a seat in one of our cars. And we can give you information on how to do that. It's a great memorial. If you want to remember somebody that was a train buff, put a tie in their name. Put a plaque on a seat in the train. As you go through our cars, you'll see plaques on them. So you can own a piece of the railroad. This is my favorite slide. You can volunteer. You saw those 98 volunteers? I'm constantly trying to get new volunteers because some people just physically can't do it. I had a great lady that was just getting into the groove, and then she decided she wanted to move to North Carolina. I don't know, something about kids down there. You know how that works. But volunteer. What kind of work do? We do flagging. Yes, Mike? We do flagging. It takes 7 volunteers to run a train from New Freedom to Glen Rock. 3 of them are flaggers. The road crossing equipment, the bars, the lights, for the 30 some odd years that from Hurricane Agnes until we got going, PennDOT says we're not going to maintain those. There's no traffic going down the way. So we used to have 13 crossings. I think we're down to 11 because PennDOT finally put a crossing out on 616, and which I wanted to hug and kiss them because that was a terrible place to flag at night when people like to go around that curve at about 55 miles an hour, and you're standing out there with a little lantern saying, please stop, because we try to keep cars away from trains. We have experience and enough literature that says the trains always win. People think they can outrun them, et cetera, but they can't. So flaggers, greeters, and event support. I talked a little about the big event, the Sesquicentennial. I'm going to need a lot of people to help guide the crowds around, to answer questions, and because we're expecting some good-sized crowds. I also, last year on Cowboy Weekend, we divided the day up into 2 shifts, but around all the exhibits, and we have a children's carnival area around all the carnival rides. Totally, I used about 22 volunteers on each shift. And you do 2 shifts on Saturday, 2 shifts on Sunday. So that's what we talk about when we're talking event support. Greeter, that's just somebody that's standing out there in front of that station, helping you go get your boarding pass. You purchase your tickets online, just like you do on an airliner. But you need a boarding pass so that we know you showed up. And we're not holding a train waiting on somebody that's already boarded. That's how we do it. You have to show us your ticket on your phone, and then we will issue you a boarding pass that has your seat and everything on it. You're picking all of that out ahead of time, but we use boarding passes. Administrative support, we have a lot of administration that goes on. We send out information to people. We're doing appeals, et cetera. Building and rolling stock maintenance. We've done a lot of that in the last 2 weeks. We replaced all the outsides on the Four Seasons car. All the plywood was starting to rot across the bottom. We've painted another passenger car. That's what we do in our spare time, you know. We've had volunteers. We have 1 paid maintenance person right now. We're supposed to have 2, but we got 1 vacancy, and the rest of it's volunteers. If you don't like big trains, maybe you like little trains. We have 2 great model layouts, but they need some TLC. We have a O-gauge layout that was rebuilt a few years ago, and now it depicts downtown New Freedom in the 1950s. So it's got 1950 models cars, it's got all the telephone poles and telephone lines, and all the buildings have the signage of exactly what they were back in the 1950s. Over on the other layout, it's an HO scale. It's a big one, and we've taken the map that I showed you of where we run, and from the Mason-Dixon line up to York, but we've put that in 2 loops on a big layout. So it shows you New Freedom, it shows you Railroad, it shows you Glen Rock. And you know what it shows you for Railroad? How many people have been to Railroad? No Railroad. You live there. You know where the pond was, where the mills were? Back where now it's, I forget the name of the company, it changed names, the material company down there in that nice green valley. That was a mill pond. And there was a sawmill there and a grist mill. And so in our model layout, it shows the sawmill for railroad. Go on over to Glen Rock, and it shows the buildings that were in downtown Glen Rock that were under 8 feet of water when Agnes came through.
So railroad, how did railroad get its name, do you know?
Yes. And correct me if I'm wrong. It was originally known as Shrewsbury Station. And that's as close as the railroad got to Shrewsbury. When the post office came, but everybody in Shrewsbury would say, we're going down to the railroad. We're going down to the railroad. And so when the post office came in, the people got to pick the name, and they picked the name Railroad. As far as I know, it is the only town and the only post office in the U.S. named just Railroad. There may be some others that have Railroad in their name. But especially when they built the Jackson House. The Jackson House used to be up on Main Street in Shrewsbury. It was a wooden building. It burned down. And then they went down and built it down there. And the walls next to the tracks are about 15 inches thick so that they wouldn't vibrate apart.
My neighbor, we share a driveway, and I live in the old schoolhouse, the original schoolhouse.
Okay.
His house supposedly, allegedly, used to sit down on the road, and then somewhere along the line, it's right at the end of Shop Road coming out.
Okay. I know where that's at.
Supposedly they jacked it up, and built a foundation under it. Now it sits up where I am, and we share the driveway, but it was supposed to be the toll house for the railroad way back when.
I didn't know about the toll house for the railroad. There were, in Shrewsbury, there are 2 toll houses. One that's out on the south end of town, across from the marketplace. That was a toll house. And then where the Thompson Potato Farm is, on the other end of town, was a toll house. Who took the tolls?
I don't know, to me,
The housewives.
it seems odd that that would be so far away from the tracks.
Yeah, I've never heard that. There was a lot of toll roads around this area. And the toll roads were typically plank roads. And so how the people that built them got their money back was charging tolls. But if you were a resident, you could buy an annual pass. And you just put that on your buggy or something.
That would make more sense because to me, why wouldn't it be down where that old store is or one of the
Mhm.
Jackson houses or something like that? 'Cause
Well, that store is a wonderful place. Have you ever been in it?
No, I've talked to him a few times. He has
Tell Skip that you want to go in his basement.
old Victor Rolls or something.
He has, that was a general store, and you go back behind, walk up the trail and look. The creek goes through his basement, and that was his refrigeration for all of his perishable things like milk cans.
So the
That-
creek runs literally through his basement.
Go over to Captain Bob's and look at it coming from underneath.
Yeah, I know where it comes out.
Yeah, but go on the other side, and you'll see go down a hole.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And it goes through his basement, and that I am told that that's where they would put their milk cans and dairy products, their perishables. That was their refrigerator in the 1800s. You live in a very historic and interesting town. So, model railroads, I'm looking for builders and I'm looking for operators. We run the model railroads during our Christmas season, because during our Christmas season we do something different. We load all the passengers at the historic station, but we unload them down at the engine house, which is on Main Street. They get off, they circle through the front where Mrs. Claus is at, and has her cookie kitchen, and we hand out cookies and hot chocolate, and then they get to go out and hang out back in the model room where we have the two big layouts. And I need somebody to operate those and guard them from the kids that want to reach up and grab the trains as they go by. We've got plexiglass, but they still find a way in there. So volunteers, I've got volunteer applications right back there on the back table. I'll be glad to help you fill them out. And you can come do a trial period. We do our scheduling. You pick your times and your positions that you want. First time you do something or first several times, we'll have an experienced person doing it with you. If you want to be a flagger, you typically, like I said, we work in teams of 3. You train with a person in each position before you go out on your own. That's it. Ashley Zimmerner is our executive director. Sorry, she's at a conference in Gettysburg, and so that's how you got stuck with me. And I made it in less than an hour, so I hope you're not going to kick me out, is that right? Because I kept it in my time. Any questions?
So I have a question about membership. Our membership works through Christmas.
Huh? Does it?
Yeah, it works all year round.
Okay. I thought there were some restrictions on it.
On the vouchers, there's restrictions.
I know there's restrictions on the vouchers, but I thought memberships had some restrictions too during the holiday.
Restrictions on rides that cost extra, like you have to pay for your lunch. If you go out to Howard Tunnel, you have to pay the difference between designated driver and drinkers on the wine and the beer runs.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're not a beer drinker, we also do wine and cheese, because if you haven't noticed it, there's a lot of vineyards in the area. And so we will invite a vineyard to come in, and they will give you samples of all of their wines, and we give you cheese and crackers to go with it. So, but we're trying to make it an enjoyable trip, and I think we've got a gem, and I think the 2 people that founded it many years ago had quite a vision. Any other comments from the peanut gallery back there that's all volunteers? Yes. Mike is one of our Santa Clauses. We have a number of Santa Clauses, and most of them don't have authentic beards like he does, but a couple of them do. You and Leroy, and these are exceptional Santa Clauses that went to, what was it, a week-long? 3-day Santa Claus course out in out in Michigan. So that's how dedicated they are. They went out there and did that, and we have great Santas, and they do a good job. Any other questions? And thank you for coming. And when you